Imagine standing in a line with 10,000 of your neighbors, holding a heavy bronze shield, knowing that if you lose the next 10 minutes of your life, your entire civilization will be erased from history. That is exactly where the men of Athens found themselves in the late summer of 490 BCE. They were stranded on the plains of Marathon, vastly outnumbered by the Persian Empire, and their strongest allies, the Spartans, had just refused to come to their rescue because they were busy with a religious festival. The Athenians were completely alone, staring down an empire that had never lost a major battle, and their commanding general, Miltiades, knew that waiting would only mean death. He knew the Persian ships could simply sail around the coast and destroy Athens while the army was pinned down, so he made a decision that must have sounded like absolute madness to his men. He ordered them to attack, but he didn't just order a standard charge. Miltiades looked at the massive Persian formation and realized his 10,000 men simply couldn't stretch wide enough to match them. If the Greeks charged straight in, the longer Persian line would wrap around them like a net and crush them from all sides. To prevent this, Miltiades had to thin his own lines, but he didn't thin them evenly. He deliberately weakened the absolute center of his army, leaving it dangerously fragile, while packing all of his heaviest, most elite fighters onto the far left and right edges. It was a suicidal gamble. In ancient warfare, if your center breaks, your army shatters, panic spreads, and a battle immediately turns into a massacre. Yet, Miltiades was actively setting his own center up to fail. When the order to advance finally echoed across the plain, the Persians actually laughed. From their perspective, they were watching a tiny, unsupported militia of Greek farmers, slowly marching to their own funerals without archers or cavalry to protect them. But as the Greeks crossed into the range of the deadly Persian bowmen, the slow march suddenly transformed into a terrifying, full-speed sprint. Thousands of heavily armored Greeks slammed into the Persian front line with a sheer physical violence that the lighter armored invaders had never experienced. The sound of bronze shattering bone and wood echoed off the surrounding mountains, and for a brief moment the sheer shock of the charge halted the Persian war machine. But the Persian center was held by their absolute best troops, and just as Miltiades had predicted, the artificially weakened Greek center couldn't hold them back. The Greeks in the middle began to buckle, stumbling backward, choking on the dust of the battlefield, as the elite Persian infantry pushed deeper and deeper into the Athenian lines. The Persians thought they were winning. They thought they had broken the Greek formation and were pouring into the gap to finish the slaughter. But they didn't realize they weren't breaking the line. They were walking into the jaws of the most devastating trap in the history of the ancient world. While the Persian elite pushed aggressively forward into the collapsing center, they completely lost track of what was happening on the edges of the battlefield. Out on the wings, the heavily packed Greek veterans were absolutely crushing the weaker Persian flanks. The Persian left and right wings began to disintegrate, turning and running for their lives toward the ocean. But the Greek wings didn't chase them. Instead of breaking formation to hunt down the fleeing survivors, the heavy Greek wings stopped, pivoted inward, and slammed shut like a steel bear trap directly behind the Persian center. The Persian elite troops, who just seconds ago believed they were marching to total victory, suddenly realized they were completely surrounded by walls of impenetrable bronze shields and razor-sharp spears. Panic swept through the Persian ranks like a virus. The hunters had instantly become the hunted. The legendary empire's formation collapsed into chaos as men fought desperately to push their way back out of the closing circle. But the Greeks showed absolutely no mercy. The slaughter was relentless. The invincible Persian war machine broke, and the survivors clawed their way toward the beach in a desperate, blood-soaked scramble to reach their ships and escape the nightmare. The Greeks pursued them right into the surf, fighting in the water, grabbing the wooden hulls of the ships with their bare hands to keep them from launching. By the time the surviving Persian fleet finally pulled away from the bloody shores of Marathon, over 6,000 Persian soldiers lay dead in the mud. The Athenians lost fewer than 200 men. Against all mathematical logic, against the greatest empire on earth, and without the help of the Spartans, Athens had survived. They didn't just win a battle that day. They proved to the entire world that the Persian Empire could bleed, setting the stage for a rivalry that would shape the future of Western civilization.